This is Greg Pass with the Americans in Wartime Experience. Today's date is June the 12th, 2023, and I am in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I have the pleasure to sit down with Clyde Reeder. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. Where
He thanked you for being with him today.
Yeah.
where are you, Mr. Reeder? What state are you in right now?
Say that again.
Where are you located right now? What state are you in?
Right now,
Yes, sir.
Georgia, city of Cumming.
Georgia. And can you tell us where you were born?
Yes, I was born in Huntington, Pennsylvania.
And do you have any military veterans in your family?
Say again.
Do you have any military veterans in your family?
Don't think so. No. No.
Well, your granddaughter, does she qualify?
Oh. Yeah, my granddaughter's in the Navy, was in the Navy.
Gotcha.
Right.
And do you remember where you were when you heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
What I was, where
Were you when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
when I heard about what?
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor. Oh, I was in Huntington, Pennsylvania.
Can you be more specific?
1511 Moore Street in Huntington, Pennsylvania.
How old were you when the Japanese attacked? Do you remember how old you were?
Well, how old was I? Well, I was born in 1924, and they attacked when?
1941. So you were not in the military at the time, though. Is that correct? You weren't in the military when the Japanese attacked?
What's that?
You were not in the military at that time.
No. I went to a year at the Penn State College when the Japanese attacked, I think.
And were you drafted into the military after the attack?
No, I joined the enlisted reserve, so-called, which was designed to keep us out a year. They were looking for the, hate to say this, but more intelligent people to not get into war or get shot, get killed.
Is that like college kids? College students?
Yes. Including college students. We were in the enlisted reserve, it was called.
And
we joined, but that meant that we could stay out for a year.
And so you enlisted it, that would have been 1942, is that right?
Did you enlist in 1942?
No. Yes, I think it did. But I have a book here which I could use to refresh my memory.
Tell them what it is. The book.
Is that?
Tell them what the book is.
This book I wrote, I called it Clyde Reeder's Retrospective Diary. Army service 1943 to 1945. But I didn't consider the enlisted reserve part of the Army
Gotcha.
in this book.
Okay. So can you tell me where you went through basic training at? Basic
training.
Basic training. Where did you?
Training, in Georgia at Camp Howells, HOWZE, which is now not in existence.
And what was your military occupational specialty? What were you, infantry?
Infantry. The whole time I was in. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what the infantry training was made up of? What kind of training did you have when you were in basic training in Georgia?
Trained to be an infantryman.
And what did that consist of? Do you have any recollections of your time in basic training? The type of training you were doing specifically?
Do you recall what kind of training they put you through?
Yes. Infantry.
Okay.
Did you learn to shoot the Brownie automatic rifle?
Yes. I carried a Brownie automatic rifle, BAR, which is a fairly heavy rifle. I think it was around 15 pounds. And I was proud to carry it because I could get more shots quicker than most infantrymen.
Gotcha.
What other things did they train you to do?
What's that?
What other things did they train you to do? Did you
No other training.
marching, hiking?
Oh yes, we alone took long marches.
So at some point in time, you graduated from training. Where did you go from there?
After training, I went to New York City, Paradise Avenue, I would think it was called, and got a ship across the Atlantic to England.
Do you remember what the ship was? Do you remember the name of the ship by chance?
Do I remember the ship?
Yes, sir.
The name of
Name of it? Well, I could tell you.
If you don't remember, that's fine. We can get a copy of that document later. Mr. Reeder, can you tell me any memories you had when you were going across the Atlantic to England?
I didn't hear that because
tell them about the trip across the Atlantic.
Trip across the Atlantic was mighty scary because the Nazis were torpedoing ships, but mostly along the East Coast, delivering oil to Houston. And but it was scary because every little bump against this 3/4 inch steel, I think it was, side of the vessel, you imagine a torpedo, but it was a fish. And the cross Atlantic was fortunately for the it was very rough. So we were lucky that was luck, because the torpedoes would have a hard time zeroing in on us. A lot of the guys were mighty sick for the whole, I think it took 2 weeks to get over there.
Do you remember, were you in bunk beds? Do you remember what kind of quarters you were staying in on the ship?
What's that?
What kind of sleeping arrangements, bunks?
Well, I
And-
was
and tell 'em
5
about
decks down, and there was stainless steel ladders. Had to get down there, but most of the and at the bottom of it, 110-gallon
Trash cans?
cans, yeah, some were flopping over with vomit, and the handles of the that went down 5 decks covered with vomit too.
That doesn't sound very fun.
No, he said that doesn't sound very fun.
What's that?
He said that doesn't sound very fun.
Well, it was not very much fun. And as a matter of fact, I spent all the time I could on the deck atop the ship, which I don't know if it was normal for the North Atlantic, but it was stormy, and the ship would get down about 25 feet, the bow, and it would go up about 25 feet. So it was, had some guys seasick the whole time we were on it. I didn't get seasick, fortunately.
What did you guys do to keep busy while you were on the ship?
What did you do to keep busy on the ship?
Read. They had a lot of paperback books, not the hard books, but paperback books, and I read quite a few of them in 2 weeks or so.
I bet.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, you arrive in England. What did you guys do when you got to England?
What did he say?
What did you do when you got to England?
Well, I think we just saw England and went over to Le Havre in France, debarked there.
Oh, you did not stop in England. You went directly to France.
Not going over, but the story becomes more complex. And I did stop on the way out of France.
Okay. Well, what's starting France? Do you remember what when you first arrived in France? What did that look like? What were your observations when you got there?
Well, it was messy because a lot of the French ships were sabotaged in the harbor. The Germans made regular flights over to bomb because the Germans were fighting a war in Italy too. At the same time, they were fighting the Italians, and it was a mess. Got to France. They marched us. They marched us about I think they said 20 miles in the rain.
What month was this? Would have been in
What's that?
1944. Would this have been in 1944? What month did you arrive in France?
What month?
Well, I have to consult my book. I think it was winter, but let's see.
That's fine, sir. We can get that information later. I was just trying to get a general idea on how far into the invasion this was. So you're thinking it was probably winter? Was it cold?
I think it was, yeah. Was it, yeah, it was fall, if not winter. You told me you went to Marseille. Is that what you said to
Yeah,
him? Okay. And
yeah, and then
I think it would have been in the beginning of November.
Okay. And this was, and just for the record, this was the 103rd Infantry Division. Is that right?
Was it the 103rd Infantry
yes, it
Division?
was.
Yes.
3rd Infantry Division. That's right.
Do you recall what regiment you were with?
What regiment?
Well, that's a question.
And that's okay. We can get that information later. Okay,
Well, he wants you just to answer what you can and not refer to the book.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So we know that you were in France with 103rd Infantry Division. It would have been in the fall of 1944. Do you remember your first observations when you went inland? Did you go through any towns?
Well, the Germans had been attacking Marseille, and there was a lot of damage there. A lot of ships in the harbor sunk, and as I recall, we went up on a railroad on the 20 and 2 box cars. That's for horses. And we went up along the mountains there in Marseille to Epinal, Epinal, I believe it was. That's where I then started my part of the war.
It was October 20th that he disembarked at Marseille.
Perfect. Thank you. October 20th, 44. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your platoon and your part, your responsibilities. Did I hear you right that you were a BAR gunner?
Were you a BAR gunner? Yes, you carried the BAR.
Oh yeah, I BAR was my weapon.
And what was your role in the platoon?
Well, there's one BAR in the platoon. No, strike that. There probably were 4. I'm not sure though. But anyway, I was one of them. A fine weapon. Boom, boom, boom. 20 rounds per the thing you put in the
Magazine?
magazine, yeah. 20 rounds.
Gotcha.
And I had one in 3 were tracers, so it made quite a display. But it was, you could see these tracers came out fiery red. And,
that helped you with your aim.
yeah, you can correct it.
Did you have to fire your weapon when you were in Europe?
Yes, I fired the weapon. Sometimes simply as a display, since one of the 3 was a tracer, the Germans' army could see this and let them know that we're coming. And of course, we could correct our aim when we saw where they were going. My first remembrance of the first part of combat, we were going on a hill towards Epinal, and the German army were firing phosphorus shells to my left. These were terrible weapons because if they lit on you, they continued burning. And I guess they would just burn flesh too. But fortunately, I did. Well, when we got to Epinal, I saw off to my front right a fat German soldier on a bicycle riding up the road. And of course, he was meaningless to us because one person, one soldier was nothing. Unless it was your own. So he was riding away.
So when you moved through Europe, was most of it on foot, or did you have occasion to get rides in military vehicles?
Was most of your travel on foot, or did you ride in vehicles?
Well, as I recall, it's about a half and half.
What would you ride in?
Trucks with seats down each side of the bed of them. And sometimes that winter, we were packed in like this and glad of it because that kept us a little warmer.
Do you recall what you had to eat? Do you recall, were you guys eating out of cans, or did you have cooks that would prepare meals for you?
What did you eat? Did you eat sea rations or
Well, our cooks along with us brought us one cooked meal, one hot meal a day. They would come up scared, they were, the cooks, mighty scared. They'd give us they'd dump the food in containers, of course, somewhere near us, and then they'd scoot back And at first I thought, gee, those guys are cowards. I'm going to show these people how to fight. It didn't turn out quite that way. I approached the top of this hill above Evidal, and my company was coming down the road in panic. They were running away from the Germans. Well, that heartened me because I thought, well, I'm going to be a hero here. But that night, I had to sleep in a corn crib. And it was spindly. And they shot their naval werfers, thunder throwers, I believe that means in English, and us, and it was terrible. These naval werfers, they 3 at a time would come over, and this corn crib would go like that, because it literally shook the earth. That was a terrible weapon, but it had limited use. You couldn't use it against one soldier, and if you had to use it against a group of soldiers, these soldiers were available to destroy them, destroy the naval versions. But the first time you're exposed, it really is a terrible weapon. But it couldn't be used very often.
So that was kind of scary. That was scary. It was frightening.
Well, I was always scared. Sometimes worse than others. That was the only question. But you read the stories or see the movies now. Soldiers aren't scared. They're heroes the whole way.
How did you communicate with your family? Did you get letters?
Did you get letters from your family?
Oh yes. Every day, I think. Any ship across the ocean would bring letters.
And were those the full-size letters, or were they like the little ones that
They were full-size letters, but they were very thin papers. But,
You got food from them too, didn't you?
what's that?
You got treats, cookies sometimes.
Oh yeah, occasionally we get treats across the ocean. In fact, one time, one of my aunts sent me some this white candy. What's
Divinity.
Divinity? And we got it after dark, and of course we had blankets over the windows, so the enemy couldn't see too many lights. and shoot at them. In the morning, we ate them at night, and in the morning, we ate part of them in the night. In the morning, we found out that they're just full of maggots, which didn't bother us when we didn't see them. But when we could see them, we had to throw them out.
Do you remember at some point in time, the 103rd Infantry made their way into Germany? Is that right? Do you remember going into Germany?
I was never in Germany.
Oh,
No,
really?
I was always in France.
Okay.
Alsace.
Did you get shot before then?
We-
The 103rd went into Germany, is that right? Without you?
I was shot before I got to Germany.
Yes.
I
Gotcha.
was in Alsace, part of Alsace-Lorraine. That's in northern France. So the only place I fought was in France.
Can you tell me about the day you were shot?
Well, we were in a small village in France. It was up near the German border, though. So,
It's half in Germany, isn't it?
what?
Half of it is in Germany. Are you talking about Schillersdorf?
No,
Oh,
half of it, I would say, were sympathetic to the Germans, more sympathetic.
what town was it? Where you were shot? What town?
Town,
Yes.
it was, yeah, I'd have to read.
That's fine.
Wasn't
That
that?
we can get that information later. What do you remember?
Yeah, it was Schillersdorf.
Schillersdorf. And
Okay.
this is the I think more the German sympathizers in that part of the country that the French sympathizers or Americans or the French allies.
So
So we went into this town and I remember we were on a long slope, a long hill, meadow hill, and we had to cross the Ingviller Road, and we waited there for some time. We had a cannon fire. I never saw this cannon. It was way behind us, but it was firing into Schillersdorf. And at some point, we attacked Schillersdorf. And I was on Rue Principale, Main Street. And I was able to see over the brick wall, brick or stone, I guess I should say, because I'm not sure where it was. My we got up there and then we hesitated. But we want our tank to come down and help us. At first, he didn't want to. And correctly so. But he finally came down and he put his shells towards the barn in this, beside this house in Schillersdorf. And incidentally, I still correspond with the people who lived in that house. But anyway, he put his tank cannons over the wall, and I asked him to shoot. I asked him first to come down. He didn't want to. Then after a while, I asked him again, and he came down. He put his cannons over the wall, about 3 feet above my ears. And he shot at the 3 or 5, I forget now, German soldiers in the barn. And well, no, I had that wrong. The first time I went down there, we sneaked in the house from their yard in front at the side of the house. A lot of the German houses are built with the front door on the side. Anyway, we sneaked in there, and on the way in, we saw 5 German soldiers. And well, my Sergeant Hespy said, "Okay, Clyde, take three of you and clean out." That was the expression for destroying everything. Clean out the second house. And we went down there, and on the way we shot over the wall towards the barn where we'd see the German soldiers. And I was about this far away from the cannons, and I haven't heard right since. It was just too loud for my eardrums. It damaged my ears. But of course, I wasn't concerned about my ears. I was concerned about a whole body. Okay, then after that, we got that first house and passed us my sergeant, a fellow named Hespy. He was a dumb farmer, if you ever saw a dumb farmer. But he was sergeant, and you don't get that rank by intelligence, apparently. Anyway,
Okay.
he said, "Okay, clean out the second house." So that was it. I sent 2 or 3 fellows and myself down to the second house, and I fell in the snow. And I thought, uh-oh, something's wrong here. I must be shot. didn't hurt a thing. It didn't hurt me. But when I got back to the safe side of the house, my friends could find only a tiny piece of blood, drop of blood on my right hip, but on the back of something like a quarter of a size of a quarter, there was a red. So I was justified in leaving. I haven't walked right since.
So the gunshot was if I heard you right, the gunshot was near your hip?
What's that? It entered the hip and it circled the hip.
Ah, gotcha.
Hip bone and came out about that far from my spine, which I consider $1 million wound. Got me out of that terrible situation I was in. And it didn't kill me.
So did they evacuate you immediately?
What?
Did they evacuate you immediately?
Well, they took me by ambulance to Paris and put me in the main Paris hospital. And after being at the front as long as I was, when I woke up after my first night's sleep, the clothes were disgustingly damaged. You know, I can't say, but there must have been cured and shit.
You couldn't tolerate because you hadn't changed clothes for a long time, right? Yeah.
Well,
you had to wear the same clothes.
Well, the nuns who ran that hospital, they cleaned me up. And they didn't do anything for my wound except clean the surface of it. And that was in Paris. Then they took me by ambulance to Le Havre. And I remember distinctly, I was so impressed then, the walking wounded, who may have been much worse shot than I was, were sitting on the side of the ambulance, and I was lying on the floor on a cot. We got on a boat to Plymouth, England, and they went to took me to one of the university hospital. I don't know which hospital, I forget right now. And they fixed me up. They fixed my wound, shot me with penicillin. I think I was on penicillin shot every 3 hours. And it's funny to think how I was in my sleep even. I would turn to the right butt or the left butt to get the shot. Well, I was rehabilitated then, and had a great time in England with like 100 vacations. And that was that.
They,
I recovered in England. So they took me up to northern England to that town. What's it called? But anyway, it's a town which is noted for making airplanes. And it was the first time where the Germans put many bombs in that town. But when I got there, it was safe. So I recovered up there. Then yeah, they treated my wounds. One of the university hospitals, and then I went to that town. I forget the name of it, but then they took me to France, on Le Havre, and put me on a ship to America.
Can you describe your homecoming when you saw your family again?
tell about when you went home. Where did you go when you came to back to the United States?
Yeah, I went home to Huntington, Pennsylvania, to my old homestead.
Now, when did they drop the atomic bomb? Was it when you were coming back? You told me, were you on a boat when they dropped the bomb?
Oh, the nuclear bomb.
Yes.
I think so.
Going to the Pacific?
That was the cost that we were headed for the Pacific. But when we got to the United States, they sent us home.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Reeder, if you had a young man or a young woman who told you they wanted to go into the military, what advice would you give them on how to have a successful career in the Army?
If you had a young person that wanted to go into the military, what would you tell them how to have a successful career in the military?
Well, I'd tell them to go ahead. The military was good to me. I don't count my getting shot as against the military.
Not the American military, at least.
My granddaughter went into the Navy.
Outstanding. Look, Mr. Reeder, we are videotaping this right now, and your great grandchildren many years from now might find the video. What would you want them to know about your service to your country?
Well, I think they should do what they feel like doing.
But what would you like them to know about your service? Is there anything you would like them to know about what you did?
Well,
Your distant relatives or your,
well, yes, I still correspond to the people who owned the house in front of which I was shot. And one of them, a lady, came to the United States and made a career out of whatever she does. I think she was in Chicago last I heard. And I would counsel them to do what they thought was right.
Very good. Hey,
I would,
Dave.
I would say that that he's very proud of what he did, and you know, he enlisted and wanted to do his part for his country.
Yeah. Yep. I enlisted when I was going to State College. I was in the blue band for what that was worth.
And he could have been in you could have been in the Army band, but you opted not. You wanted to go
I
into.
could have been in an Army band, but I wasn't good enough trumpet player to get into the main blue band of Penn State.
No, but you could have been in the band in the military, right? You said you opted not to. I thought, but and
No,
because
I
you
wasn't
wanted
in
to
the
go.
band.
No, yeah.
When I recovered and went back to France, one of my friends from Penn State, a fellow Penn Stater, tried to recruit me to a band, a local military band. And I stupidly said, no, I want to go and get this over with. I didn't want to be in the band.
That's what I'm referring to.
And then I got shot.
Well, Mr. Reeder, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And more importantly, thank you for your service.
Welcome.